Good morning, everybody. Wow, quite a crowd today, and I have to spill over too. So clearly, there's a lot of folks here, all of you marketers, who are interested in understanding the latest this and what's going on in terms of this whole incredibly fast-paced changing area of digital, mobile, social, and video. And I think it's very easy to get distracted by all of this stuff that's going on out there and lose track about the core of what all of these different capabilities are trying to allow you to do, which is, as marketers, connect with your customers in ways that are going to drive growth. And really thinking through what the customer is going to have to experience to unlock a growth partnership with you. And it's very tempting to spend money on all kinds of technologies. And I talk to clients all the time who say things like, well, we've just put in this new content management system. And we seem to be spending more, though, on staff and agencies. We haven't gotten the cost savings. Or we've just put all of this money into programmatic buying. That's the latest catch term. So programmatic buying. But the reality is our conversion rates are falling. Or we're working with a systems integrator and we've got $40 million program to put all of this digital underpinning in place, but I don't know when I'm going to get the return. And the problem is that they're not thinking about the customer's journey. They're not recognizing that what people really want when they interact with a brand today is they want to be able to get something done, and they want it done now. It's all about immediacy, it's about capability, and not having that image of what the customer's journey is makes all of these different technology initiatives just really a list of initiatives that are not coming together in a way to really change how the brand is interacting and the performance it can offer. So let me tell you a story of my own journey, of an experience I have that illustrates some of the challenges involved for financial services in trying to deliver this kind of journey. And in all deference to Ed, the example I'm going to talk about is actually not American Express. So I won't be coming up and talking about issues with a company that just presented. So several months ago, my daughter, Claire, was in an exchange program. She's a college senior. She was in an exchange program over in Paris. And we were planning to head over to Paris as a family to visit her for Thanksgiving, which we thought would be a wonderful thing to do. And I was starting to think through all of the planning for the trip, getting over there, buying the plane tickets, all of that. And I got an email from a bank who I do business with, who I have a checking and savings account with, offering me a credit card that seemed to actually fit really well with what I was planning to do. It was a very traveler-oriented credit card, giving me extra credit for miles, and in particular, no foreign transaction fees on purchases outside the United States. Well, that sounded, just right. It seemed like the right fit. So I clicked to apply, and then I'm greeted with this. And it's just overwhelming. This is a bank I thought knew me. I have an account with the bank. And there's just all of this that I have to fill out. So most people would give up, right? I mean, would you bother? I didn't. I was a bit more determined, maybe some masochism there, but I was also curious to see what would happen. So I fill out the whole thing, submit the form. I'm told that it'll take another day to find out whether I get approved. It takes another day for me to get the email that says I'm approved. Then it tells me it's going to take another 3 days to get my card. When my card comes, I get this nondescript envelope, and I get a card. And that card just simply says, call in to authorize it. It doesn't remind me of my benefits, congratulations, nothing. And when I call in to authorize the card, it tries to offer me purchase insurance when I've never missed a payment in my life over many years, and my credit should be telling them that. So I'm going through this whole experience, and it's just very clear that instead of knowing me, which is what I would expect, a process and a journey that used as much information as possible to help me get through this process, it was clear that they did not know me at all. And that already starts to taint my view of the brand. But it gets worse. So I go over to Paris. I fly there on the plane ticket that I bought with the credit card. So I use that credit card to go over to Paris. And the first thing I do is go to a chocolate store to buy some chocolate to bring to my daughter as a gift. Lovely chocolate store, by the way. This place is amazing. It's like a museum of chocolate in the Marais. And one of the things in particular I wanted to buy was this, which I thought would be a nice centerpiece. My daughter was making dinner with some friends for us, and that maybe we could have this for dessert. So I go to the checkout to present my card, and I'm turned down. So first time I use my credit card that I'm supposed to use for foreign exchange fees abroad, that I use to buy a ticket to Paris, and I basically run headfirst into a brick wall. And they don't even, they have my mobile phone number. They can't send me, if they're concerned, if they don't want to just give me credit, they could send me a mobile message, is this you? Put in your PIN, but nothing. I just hit a brick wall, and there's like a phone number that I got to call, and there's a line behind me, and I just said, forget it. I'm just not going to bother. And so I've used a different card, and the whole journey was ridiculous, and it totally changed my perception of the brand because they hadn't really thought through the whole journey that their value proposition was trying to offer, with all of the technological bells and whistles that are actually pretty simple on the surface to provide. The problem is that there's all these underlying different departments, different systems, but they do need to be stitched if that's the way you're going to go to market. Because the kind of journey that I should have had would have just carried me right through the sign up, taking me over to Paris. They would know I'm over in Paris. They would tell me through the app of different places to go to eat where there might be great deals for the card. And it could have been a fantastic experience of carrying me all the way through. And it's a question of thinking through what is that journey. Because what people want from a journey is the ability to get something done now. If you're going to promise something, you got to carry it through and make sure somebody is capable of doing it. Needs to be able to be customized. I do expect you to have a little bit of creepiness and know that there are certain things about me that you have that you can use to make my experience easier, and then make the whole interface and flow of it as incredibly simple as possible. And that's really what we want. And if we talk about millennials, I'm not sure millennials are necessarily different from all of us in the room. Maybe the demands are even higher and the expectations are there. But I think in today's day and age, thinking through how journeys can deliver on these things is the primary way to connect with customers to drive growth. But it's not easy. There's a lot of different changes that the marketing organization has to make in order to really stitch that together and deliver it. And as you look at some of the companies who are born digital and the way they think about journeys and the priorities they put on certain elements of design, they tend to be a bit different than how traditional marketers think about it. Traditional marketers especially, who are just trying to make a sale. So what you need to start doing is thinking about how to shape that journey with, there may be more, but there are 4 key elements that we've seen. And I'm going to go through these quickly and then give some examples in detail of how to design an experience that carries somebody through. And if you think about the Ubers and you think about Amazon, they really stick to these 4 principles. And the question is, how do you apply it to your more traditional business? So the first is actually not a marketing thing. It means not going to market unless you have some real-time automation behind something. The ability to apply for a card online, get instantaneous approval, get a number, be able to use it, be able to get things done in the moment, right then and there. To be able to have interfaces that fit where you are on your phone, that you can interact with, that know what you're doing, and take advantage of that to help push you further. Proactive intelligence that takes advantage of the information that the company knows about you and uses that to target you at the right time with something relevant, to personalize it for you, and to optimize that over time. And then as you get all of that information, as you get all of those interactions, let's change the nature of the engagement and innovate and come up with new things and new capabilities that will drive people to interact even more with you and give you more information and keep that cycle of growth happening. And if you're thinking about going to market with new kinds of offerings, do you have all the underpinnings that this talks about behind that? That's part of the challenge. And let me give you some examples. Most of them are outside of financial services, some are in, but I think they provide some good parallels for kinds of things you can think about. So first, real-time automation. Starwood Hotels has always been a bit more on the leading edge of thinking about how to use digital in the hotel experience. And it's 10 o'clock at night, you get into a hotel, you're tired, you just want to go to your room, you don't want to deal with somebody behind the desk, you especially don't want to deal with a line waiting for that person behind the desk. So what Starwood now has in their app is the ability to send you a text message when you cross a beacon line in the hotel, if you've signed up for it. You need to authenticate that it's yourself through a thumbprint, and then it gives you the room number, and you just go up to the room, hold your phone up, and the door opens. And they're rolling this out in a number of hotels, especially the W's, or Aloft in the W's, and it's gradually going to expand. And that's a journey, a capability that totally allows the customer to get something done now. Gives them a whole empowerment of capability that they didn't have before. In the moment of interacting, there are things sometimes that you want to be able to do and take advantage of that normally you might not. And sometimes the moment is right then and there. When most people are thinking about a mortgage, they're actually really not thinking about the mortgage. They're thinking about buying a house. That's what they really want to do, is buy a house. Commonwealth Bank has an app that allows you to take a picture of any house. If that house is for sale, it'll give you a whole lot of information about that house. If it's not for sale, it'll tell you what that house last sold for. So they use APIs to connect up with Trulia or Zillow, depending on the market you're in. And then as you start going through the process with this app, it tells you, so here's an example of how much the house actually costs. And then you can go through getting more information. You can make an appointment with the broker to go see the house. And most importantly, from the bank's perspective, you can start then going through the process of applying for a mortgage. And all of the cycle of the mortgage paperwork and everything is carried through that app. Now, there's a little bit behind the scenes of Wizard of Oz going on because not all of the paper is clean and everything, but from the consumer's point of view, it's a very clean flow. And they've used that to raise their market share in mortgages pretty dramatically. And they're now starting to think about where else could they apply this in areas, for example, such as investment. And could this concept work in other parts of their business? Based on all of those interactions, what you also want to have is a company using the information they know about you and information they may have to make your interaction more useful, help you get stuff done. And L'Oreal has done something very interesting with Makeup Genius. So Makeup Genius is an app. You take a picture of your face, and based on 61 different characteristics of how your face looks, it scores you for what's the right kind of makeup. And not just in general makeup, but makeup for different kinds of situations, for at night, for during the day, for casual, for formal. And it starts creating suggestions for you of what is the right makeup recipe to put together in order to get that look. And then it shows the woman what it looks like on her face. It generates the shopping list to be able to actually buy it. They then get to see what she likes, what she doesn't like, what she buys, and then they use that to constantly update that algorithm over time. It's constantly learning, it's constantly a companion, and it's brought the whole notion of that department store clerk who people sometimes feel really awkward with, they don't trust, and it's put that, right in the hands of a woman, making what may feel like some high-risk decisions and changing the whole flow by which she goes through the decision journey on what makeup to buy. And then speaking of flow, my one little joke here. Progressive has always been on the leading edge of using different kinds of technology to change the buying experience. They were one of the first to offer the ability to see competitive quotes on their website because they would submit your information to another website, scrape off the results, and then based on that, figure out what Progressive should charge you. Whether or not they wanted to be the cheapest, maybe they wouldn't want to be the cheapest because you're actually high risk and they can afford putting a premium on. And they actually found that people were willing to pay up to a 25% premium for Progressive relative to the competition. So they were able to take on higher and higher risks. But they've done something even more interesting now with a new capability called Snapshot, which you may have heard of. Snapshot is really changing the entire journey of thinking about auto insurance. It's a gizmo that goes in your car, and it tracks how you drive. The reason you might put that gizmo in your car is because if you're a good driver, it can lower your rates. It also has an app that allows you to track how you're driving and whether you've been driving well or not and what some of the things you did that might not have been good. Spouses could compare their driving capability. It creates a game out of driving. And all of a sudden, auto insurance, which was something that you maybe only thought about once a year when you were up for renewal, when you bought a car, or when you had an accident claim, becomes a game that you're playing every single day. It's right in front of you all the time, the brand. Providing you with information, helping you be a better driver, making it fun. Auto insurance, fun. That's a real game changer. And that's rethinking the journey and putting that whole mindset together of what might the customer want to do and how can we change that whole experience. And so from a marketer's perspective, I would argue that marketing is no longer, and it probably has been true for a while, it's not just about the message and the connection and the brand. It's actually now about the journey that you can provide somebody in buying and using your product, and that journey in and of itself is a product of your brand. It's a representation of your brand. The journey needs to be managed in a way as if any product needs to be managed, where somebody's on top of it, putting together all the different pieces across functions, driving continuous improvement, and thinking about innovation. In order to do this well, it starts by thinking through, well, what are the journeys that people want to go on? And putting yourself in the customer's shoes, some of that is data, some of that's good old ethnographic research, getting out there and talking to people. You can actually now do all kinds of things in terms of tracking what people are doing through mobile diaries and sending them pings and asking them to respond. But creating a map of what are the end-to-end journeys and the real goals that people want to do, and then seeing where is their value, which of the journeys we want to own that we've got to stitch together. Within those journeys, there are going to be battlegrounds, places where there are traditionally compromises that frustrate people, or places where great value add can happen that can distinguish your brand over somebody else's. This is an example, and I'm not going to go through this, of a chart from new kinds of tools that are out there. This one is from a service provider called ClickFox that we use a lot, where they can actually create a metadatabase that pulls together data from every single touch point you have around your institution. So imagine if you're a B2B player in the financial services space, you have people coming to events, looking at your content, going onto your website, getting emails, having visits. You can correlate that with your activity. You've not easily been able to string that together, and there are services like ClickFox that let you do that without having to build the all-singing, all-dancing mega 5-year data warehouse. They do it in a lightweight way, they string things together, and then you can start seeing patterns on what happens. And this is a particular one that says, what are all the steps somebody goes through that lead them to give us crappy satisfaction ratings when we survey them? And in this case, it turns out they were in the IVR, the voice response. They were cycling around. There were problems with the voice response. So let's fix that voice response. It's probably worth putting some extra money into that. Or maybe even the website they hit before they even had to go to the voice response wasn't working, and we might have been able to mitigate the call. And so you can start seeing journeys that are happening now and figure out how to improve them over time. And then the last part is understanding your underlying IT architecture. Every single one of you, as a marketer, better have a really close relationship with your chief technology and your chief information officer. Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on that marketers are going to be the biggest spenders on technology over the coming years. I don't know if that's exactly true or not. I think it depends on who controls the budgets. But you better know your architecture. You better know what's in the realm of the possible. Better be able to ask what are the possibilities of changing things. Because I think in the rush to be cool and digital, marketers are defaulting towards the design and the front-end stuff in apps and the easy things to do. But all the examples that we're talking about here require playing with the back end. You've got to be able to understand the wiring. You got to understand how data flows. You got to be able to enable people to get stuff done that they haven't before. And so you've got to immerse yourself in where the architecture needs to go and start asking those questions tomorrow. So in order to put this all together, there's a lot of issues, especially in a financial services institution, to pull together journeys. For marketers to bring that all together, there's issues of not only the data, but policy issues. How do we want to treat customers? Well, are you going to call me a risk when I land in Paris or not? That's a policy risk question. There's issues about technology and people that all have to come together, and a lot of different functions beyond marketing who have to be orchestrated in order to get this done. And we would argue that there's an organization shift that has to happen in order to deliver against journeys, which is to organize more against journeys and to create cross-functional teams who are looking at things like acquisition through activation, or relationship deepening, or service problem all the way to advocacy, or new journeys that you come up with, and having people squarely own them, probably from marketing, usually being the lead person to drive that, but who are then bringing together the functions around them to drive the improvement in that journey as if it were like any other product you sell. Because that will give them the authority to bring together the functions, to create the capability, and to drive the improvements over time. So as you're thinking about all of the technology things that you're doing, spending on this and this partnership and that new technology thing, think about your project mix from the lens of how are we really bringing these 4 things together, the automation, the interaction, the intelligence, and the innovation. How are we bringing that all together through whatever we're doing to drive breakthrough improvements in the journeys that our customers experience? That's really the challenge that you've got to ask yourself. I'm going to just close with a quote. The seeker embarks on a journey to find what they want and discovers along the way what they need. Your customers don't know what exactly the journey should be. You have an opportunity to shape that journey. You don't have to blindly accept that customers are pinging around. There's ways, as these companies show, of getting ahead of it through the capability, diverting and getting customers into your flow in order to build a different kind of brand relationship with them. And Wally Lamb, who's written adult books and children's books, I think just put it really well. Because you have the opportunity to guide the customer. And from what we have seen in the companies who have taken these kinds of steps, there's a lot of rewards here if you can really pull it together and break through. Thank you.